But you see in the fourth quarter, A'ja Wilson's trying out for an offensive lineman position in the NFL. And then look it, if you don't want to be pissed off, don't watch this. In overtime, a moving screen with 2 minutes left, and this is the biggest shot of the game after fouling out Boston for less.
Was A'ja Wilson's historic playoff run a display of MVP greatness, or was she playing with a secret advantage the entire time? When you look past the final score, a disturbing pattern emerges, one that suggests the Indiana Fever weren't just battling the Las Vegas Aces, they were battling the referees too. This wasn't just a hard-fought series for many fans, it was a stolen one, and the evidence is impossible to ignore.
Only A'ja Wilson could get away with this. Look at this, and ESPN called this a highlight. You could clearly see both feet come off the ground and land again. That's illegal. And let's check this out, a double dribble. She spins, touches it with 2 hands. Like, this is first grade stuff. The refs, of course they miss it because it's A'ja Wilson. She's dribbling, touches it with 2 hands on the spin move, gathers it, and passes to a teammate. And watch this at travel. That's her pivot foot. Like, this is some Angel Reese type stuff. Like 3 in 1 game? That's horrible.
The entire story can be told in 2 staggering numbers, 26 and 17. Over 5 brutal games, A'ja Wilson was sent to the free throw line a whopping 26 times. Her direct opponent, Aliyah Boston, the league's best post defender and a player whose entire game is built on attacking the rim, only earned 17 trips. But that number is a complete illusion, padded by meaningless desperation fouls in the final minutes of a single game. The real story is far more damning.
It was a physical game, you know. I think there's a double standard in how people get their calls. I think Aliyah Boston is the worst officiated post player in the league. She never gets a call. And you know, there's a double standard there, certainly. But, you know, again, if it's going to be physical and you're gonna allow us to be physical, then allow both teams to be physical. If you're going to call the holds and you're going to call the chucks, and you're going to then call it both ways. So I mean, I think that we've been pretty consistent in what we're asking for, and I didn't feel like it was.
For the first 2 games of this critical series, the whistle for Aliyah Boston simply didn't exist. Despite battling in the paint, posting up, absorbing shoves, and taking hits on nearly every possession, she shot a grand total of 0 free throws. Not 1. Meanwhile, any minimal incidental contact on A'ja Wilson sent her to the line, creating an imbalance so severe it felt undeniably intentional. This wasn't just a difference in play style, it was a clear and obvious difference in rule books.
And look at these moving screens. She totally destroys Lexi Hall. And guess what? They get a 3-point bucket off that play. They didn't call that an offense foul. Look at this one. Do you see how she sticks her leg out? They wonder why they get wide open layups and 3-pointers. Look at the room it makes when you set an illegal screen. That's why it's illegal. Another one. Look at this. She moves over and it's just enough time for her teammate to get a 3-pointer off. Watch how she does this. She thrusts her hips at the end. Look at it. Thrust her hips to get that extra space, and she gets an open layup. Like I said, 4 offensive fouls they didn't call, and they got 10 points.
But this isn't just about points on a scoreboard. It's about the psychological warfare a lopsided whistle wages on a player. When a physical force like Aliyah Boston is taught by the officials that her strength is a liability, it forces her to second-guess every move. She can no longer fight for position, seal off her defender, or attack the rim with confidence. The refs effectively neutered her game, turning her greatest asset into a foul magnet while rewarding her opponent for the slightest embellishment.
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is.
The favoritism didn't stop at the free throw line. It was written all over the foul sheet. Over the series, Boston was slapped with 19 personal fouls, while Wilson, the player she was guarding, only received 14. This defies all basketball logic. Boston was assigned the single toughest defensive task in the league, guarding the MVP one-on-one. Wilson, on the other hand, was often hidden on defense to conserve energy, yet the foul count was inexplicably tilted against the primary defender.
You know, and when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor, and that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively, and you know, we didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm, it's about timing, it's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us from doing it.
Then there was the Aces' most powerful yet invisible weapon, Aliyah Wilson's moving screens. According to a detailed video breakdown that went viral, Wilson committed at least 37 illegal, uncalled moving screens throughout the series. That's nearly 8 possessions per game, where the Aces were gifted a free unfair advantage to get their shooters open. While Boston was getting whistled for setting perfectly legal, textbook picks, Wilson was allowed to lean, push, and create space with her body as if the rulebook didn't apply to her.
So we got a 4-point game in the middle of the third, and this is an offensive foul, right? That's what the refs say. This is how fair the WNBA is, but this is not a moving screen. That was way worse. And not only that, it led to 3 points and called this a foul on the Fever. This is the worst moving screen I've ever seen. And this in the fourth quarter in a 4-point game. Oh, it gets worse. In overtime, a moving screen right in front of everybody. And then guess what it leads to? A 3-pointer in a 2-point game with 2 minutes left. Another moving screen. Instead of calling this a moving screen on Aliyah Wilson, they call a foul on the Fever. I can't make this crap up. Look at this. Instead of calling a foul on Lloyd, it's a foul on the Fever. Then Alyssa Smith definitely did a movie screen on Lexi Hall, which led to 2 points. Las Vegas Aces motto, where our moving screens become your personal fouls.
As the series reached its breaking point in a do-or-die Game 5, the quiet statistical bias erupted into a full-blown officiating takeover. This was no longer about subtle missed calls, it was about blatant game-altering interventions that felt deliberately designed to decide the outcome. The stage was set for a legendary showdown between two titans, but the referees made sure only one star was allowed to shine.
This is considered a foul in the conference finals of the WNBA. Oh, you mean Aliyah Wilson's on the opposing team? It's all starting to add up and make sense. You have to cheat to win basketball games.
The hostile takeover began with a phantom call that left the entire arena baffled. Boston set what appeared to be a flawless screen at the top of the key, feet planted, body still, hands tucked, but a whistle blew out of nowhere, and the referee signaled an offensive foul for a moving screen. Replays confirmed what everyone saw in real time. No illegal movement. That single baseless call immediately put Boston on thin ice, forcing her to play cautiously for the rest of the night.
So there was a huge flop on Boston's third foul. Did you see Boston's fifth foul? And then to foul her out on a 50-50 ball with 27 seconds left is wild.
The impact of that one phantom foul sent shockwaves through the Fever's entire strategy. It wasn't just one tick on Boston's foul count. It was a signal to the entire Indiana team that they couldn't play physically. Their defensive schemes, which relied on Boston anchoring the paint and being a physical deterrent, had to be softened. This created wide open driving lanes for players like Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray, who exploited the newfound space that Boston was no longer allowed to protect.
But Aliyah did say I have a special whistle. And she shot 13 today.
She's in that team.
Yeah. Yeah. She said the last game I had a special whistle.
Next came a masterclass in deception, and the referees bought it hook, line, and sinker. As Boston caught the ball and made a move in the post, Aces center Megan Gustafson threw herself backward as if she'd been hit by a freight train. The slow-motion replay revealed barely any contact, but the theatrical performance was convincing enough. The whistle blew again, and another bogus foul was added to Boston's tally. The message was now crystal clear. Aliyah Boston was not allowed to play her game.
So while you're looking at that box score, I'm wondering what's really standing out to you there.
I was just looking at the fouls. Like Liz had 5, Jackie had 5, Chelsea had 5. And that's very interesting to me because I'm not saying we don't foul. Yeah, we foul here and there, but that's very interesting.
The final dagger came late in the fourth quarter, a moment that will live in infamy for Fever fans. On a crucial rebound, Boston had established perfect defensive position, her hands straight up, ready to secure the board. Aces guard Jackie Young, smaller and out of position, crashed into her, lost her balance, and somehow the foul was called on Boston. It was her 6th. Just like that, with the game hanging in the balance, the Fever's defensive anchor and emotional leader was shamefully removed from the floor.
I gotta go back and look at the tape, but it seemed like there was a lot of grabbing and holding down there. That got called one way.
Anything else?
I did appreciate it was a little tighter called, but tighter on both ends would have been nice.
But here's where the story takes its darkest, most calculated turn. After Game 4, A'ja Wilson herself stood before the national media and claimed the officiating was rigged against the Aces. At that point in the series, she had already shot significantly more free throws and had fewer fouls called on her than Boston. It wasn't a genuine complaint born from frustration. It was a cold, calculated, manipulative move.
God, that's interesting. That's what I was looking at. But we'll do better. We gotta play better defense.
By interesting, do you mean that shit?
Yeah, I can't say that because I got a brand to protect. But
Say it, I have no brand.
yeah, it's interesting. But we'll be back.
Wilson's comments were a masterstroke of media manipulation. She knew that by planting the seed of bias in the officials' minds, they would become hypersensitive to any call against Las Vegas in the decisive Game 5. She effectively put the referees on notice, making them terrified to blow the whistle on her or her teammates for fear of being accused of rigging the series. It was a strategic checkmate played not on the court but in the press conference.
Special run that you had all season.
Yeah, I mean, this has been my best year. Seriously, I think with the people that we had in the locker room, the amount of fun that I had on the court, off the court, in the locker room, we just talked about how special this group was and how we're always going to be connected. And honestly, that's how I feel like these women became my sisters so quickly, and it was honestly just some of the best basketball I've had.
This behavior is nothing new for the Aces. It's a core part of their identity. Their entire organization, from head coach Becky Hammon screaming at officials down to their star players, has developed a reputation for melting down and blaming others whenever they face adversity. Instead of adjusting their strategy or executing better, they work the referees, creating a toxic narrative that they are the victims, even as the calls overwhelmingly go their way.
I mean, I think that's something we can take away from this season. Obviously, ending on a loss is hard and not what you want, but I do think that we can be proud of the effort we put out there, especially in the fourth quarter, losing Aliyah, losing Kelsey. I don't even know if that was the third or fourth quarter. But two of our biggest stars go down and we continue to fight and send it to overtime. So I think that's, we're proud of ourselves. We're proud of that fight. And it's just sad to see this group be done.
While the Aces complained their way to the foul line, the Indiana Fever did something else entirely. They fought with their roster decimated by injuries and their best player handcuffed by the officials. They simply refused to break. They clawed their way back from Desis, battled for every loose ball, and pushed the two-time champions to their absolute limit, forcing overtime on the road against a team that was essentially playing 6-on-5.
Tomorrow.
I knew it. You could have held hands with that. I knew it.
See, this is what happens. When you're on the same wavelength, good things happen.
I knew it.
Their stunning resilience was powered by the most unlikely of heroes. Odyssey Sims, a player signed late in the season on a hardship contract, transformed into a scoring machine, dropping an unbelievable 27 points and single-handedly keeping the offense alive. Lexi Hull, playing through a painful nagging back injury, provided suffocating defense and hit clutch threes to silence the hostile Vegas crowd.
It's because you can't hold on to it. I mean, you just look at it, and obviously we're going to be watching the championship games, and that's going to be the feeling that we want to be in that next year. And that's going to be the mindset is already prepping. I told you, we're ready to go.
And we're competitors.
Exactly.
I mean, at the end of the day, this makes you hungry for more.
This was the ultimate story of grit versus gifts. Every single point for the Fever felt earned through sweat, hustle, and sheer willpower. They were diving on the floor, fighting through illegal screens, and finishing through contact that was never rewarded. On the other side, a significant portion of the Aces' offense came from gifted trips to the free throw line, bailout whistles that stopped Indiana's momentum and killed any rhythm they built.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I'm super proud of myself. Just like you said, adjusting and adapting. And for me, a championship's always on my mind. I think no matter what happens, obviously you hate losing, but you kind of started with your question with just the progression that it's been. And so for me, obviously that's my mindset. We got a taste of it, Game 5 semifinals, and now we want the real thing. And that's honestly going to be our mindset coming in for next year. And I'm super excited going into this offseason. Time to put a lot of work in. Just get ready to come back and
And through it all were the Fever stars, giving every last ounce of what they had. Kelsey Mitchell was a blur of dynamic, unstoppable scoring until painful, debilitating cramps forced her from the game in tears. And Aliyah Boston, even with phantom fouls hanging over her head from the opening tip, anchored the defense and battled the league's MVP straight up. Her exit wasn't a failure. It was proof that the only way to stop her was to have the referees take her off the floor entirely. This series puts the WNBA at a dangerous crossroads. When the outcome of a pivotal playoff game feels predetermined by officiating, it calls the league's entire integrity into question. Are certain marketable stars being protected? Is there a narrative the league wants to push, even at the expense of fair competition? These are the uncomfortable questions that arise when a team's dream season is stolen by phantom fouls and a lopsided whistle. In the end, this series wasn't a loss for the Indiana Fever, it was an exposure of a system that spectacularly failed them. They were cheated out of a fair opportunity to compete for a championship. As Aliyah Boston later said, the team's unwavering mantra is "we over me," a powerful promise that this fight is just beginning. The future in Indiana is loaded with promise, but this series will forever leave a dark stain. Let us know down in the comments, was Asia's special whistle a coincidence or a conspiracy?